Love lives here.
So, good morning, everyone. So, welcome to the morning table. Today, we're talking about listening for divine guidance. And I wrote a whole lot of stuff. And then I hear the music, and then I want to go in a whole new direction. But so we're talking about listening for divine guidance today. But before we can listen to the divine guidance, we have to tune in. We have to tune in. So, have you ever felt that you were asking for guidance and praying for a sign or seeking some clarity, but all you got was silence? And like spirit was out to lunch and wanted to leave you a note saying, I'm gone for the weekend, I'm gone fishing, I'll get back with you on Monday. So we've all been there. In that strange space where we know that there's a higher power, we want to trust it. And yet, radio, static, radio, silence, and we get confused, right? But here's the thing. It's not that God isn't speaking. It's that we're not always what? Are tuned in. So Ernest Holmes, our founder, reminds us that the infinite is always ready to fulfill everything because it is already in everything. In other words, the divine broadcast never stops. The wisdom, guidance, peace, creative intelligence of the universe, it's all right here, right now, flowing through the frequency of spirit. Correct? All right. So, I brought these for you this morning. I know I'm off the screen, but I brought these in for you today. And you know, when you do this, I pulled them out of the closet and I had a flashback and a mommy dearest moment. Wire hangers. But so this is a group project. So each one of you should have one of these on your table, right? All right. So for those of you who know, you know. So tuning into divine guidance is a lot like, the voice of the divine is always speaking, but we get static. We get, it comes in the form of endless notifications strolling on our screens, talking to Siri or Alexa. And even when we aren't trying to talk to Siri or Alexa, they're talking to us. They're always listening. Your smart TVs, and a million digital distractions. So I decided today that I wasn't going to I brought my phone, but I wasn't going to bring my iPad or my computer. So I went back to the old-fashioned way of, taking notes and writing them down. But all of that noise can drown out that still small voice, that inner guidance. So what I want you to do with these is I want somebody at the table who knows, make rabbit ears. Don't look at me like you don't know what rabbit ears are. Because like old TVs, we used to use rabbit ears. Okay, come on up, Earl, and show them the rabbit ears. This is your assignment. Anybody ever seen these? Okay, you got to make one at your table over there. So, Earl, let me ask you a question. What are these rabbit ears for?
They are for tuning in to the frequency that's being broadcasted.
Right. Rabbit ears. People used to have them in their what?
In the, I'm going to say the television with aluminum foils on the end, the whole works.
To tune in.
Absolutely.
So this is what. Thank you. So these are your rabbit ears. So like an old television set with rabbit ears and tenters, our consciousness needs a little adjusting sometimes. We've got to align ourselves mentally, emotionally, spiritually to receive the signal clearly. And that's what people used to use these for in their television, old-fashioned television with the big tubes in it to tune in. So I'm going to put my toy down. Thank you guys for playing with me this morning with that. So today, I thought about, how can I drill this down even more about tuning in and turning in and tuning our frequency to the divine. So guess what I found? A story. And the story is called Rabbit Ears. In a small, sunlit town nestled between the mountains and the sea, there lived a man named Elijah. Elijah wasn't particularly extraordinary by the world standard. He ran a cozy secondhand electronics shop filled with dusty radios, old televisions, and shelves lined with curious gadgets that had long since fallen out of fashion. But Elijah had a secret. He believed that every device in his store held a deeper truth, a symbol of how the universe itself works. He had been a long student of science of mind, often quoting Ernest Holmes to anyone who would listen. There is a power of good in the universe, and you can use it, was his favorite phrase. However, one of his own inventions, he had an invention that he spoke out that says, you just need the right rabbit ears to hear God or spirit or the universe, whatever you choose to call it. But the phrase confused most people until one day a young woman named Marisol wandered into his shop. Weary eyes. She carried a small vintage television under her arm. It doesn't work, she said flatly. But it used to. I don't know. Maybe it's just lost the signal. So Elijah looked at the television. It was one of those ancient sets with retractable rabbit ears. Because, the television used to come with them. Two thin metal antennas that needed just the right position to catch the signal. So, like you say, you got to stand on one foot. And he asked gently, do you mind if I use this for a story? And so she blinked. A story? And so Elijah nodded and gestured for her to sit down as he set the television on the counter. This right here is like your mind. The divine broadcast is always sending out the signal, pure, infinite wisdom, love, and guidance. But if our antennas, our awareness, our consciousness aren't tuned properly, we get static, confusion, maybe even silence. So he began to adjust the rabbit ears slowly, carefully. See, the problem isn't the signal. The broadcast from the divine never stops. The problem is how we're receiving it. So Marisol watched, her brows furrowed. So how do you tune in? So Elijah paused, eyes warm and twinkling. That's the whole journey, isn't it? That's a question. That's the whole journey, isn't it? Ernest Holmes taught that we are always using the law, but often unconsciously. To tune in consciously, we practice spiritual mind treatment. We practice meditation. We practice visioning. We practice affirmative prayer. We quiet the noise of fear, of doubt, and open up to a deeper knowing. He gave the rabbit ears a slight twist, and suddenly the television crackled to life. A clear picture shimmered into view. There, he said softly, When we align our thoughts, beliefs, and emotions with the truth of our being, that we are divine expressions of spirit, everything becomes what? Clear. Guidance flows not from outside of us, but from within, where God is always broadcasting. God is always broadcasting. So Marisol stared at the screen, then at Elijah. So you're saying I already have the guidance I need? Imagine that. He nodded. Exactly. But you've been listening to static. You've been listening to fear. You've been feeling overwhelmed. You've been listening to other people's opinion. When you tune into the God frequency, it's calm. It's creative. It knows it's that. It knows. And then you begin to hear that still small voice Ernest talked about. Not loud, but absolutely certain. So tears welled up in her eyes. I think I've been listening to the wrong channel, she said. He handed her the television back, and with a wink, now you can know how to fix it. Now you know how to fix it. Adjust your rabbit ears daily. How do we do that? How do we adjust our rabbit ears daily? We do it with meditation. We do it with prayer. We do it by standing in our faith. And remember, the signal is always here. God never stopped broadcasting. You have to just tune in. Right? So the moral of that story is that the divine is constantly signaling, sending signals to us, not in a booming voice or a dramatic sign. Like the lightning is not going to strike. And people say, I wish lightning would strike right now. It's not going to happen. It may happen if we're living in Florida, or one of those climates where it's always the weather. But typically when we're asking for it, it's not going to happen. So it's not anything dramatic. It's subtle. It's unwavering frequency of wisdom, peace, and love. And when I was thinking about this, I was thinking about, when you watch those nature shows and you see the little eggs of the turtles hatch. And they don't just sit around. There's something in them that compels them to run for the ocean, go for the ocean, go for the ocean. A butterfly. I imagine the caterpillar is not crawling around saying, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I hear the voice, but I'm not doing it. Something compels it to do what it needs to do so transformation can happen in its life. Sometimes I think about stuff like that. So when we quiet our mind and tune our antennas, our consciousness through spiritual practice, we align with this high vibration. And that's why we do visioning. When we do visualization, then it's already been manifested. We might see something shiny and new that we want, and we visualize it. But when we do visioning, we're tapping in and tuning into the divine. And so that's why we do visioning. That's why we do prayer. That's why we do meditation. We're tuning into that frequency of wisdom and of love. So through our spiritual practice, we align with the higher vibration. And in that space, all things are possible. So Ernest said, we should daily tune our thoughts to recognize the divine presence and to expect it to guide us. So, back to my rabbit ears. So we should be tuning in into our the divine presence within us. And that way, we tune into all that's possible, all that's available to us. The universe always says what? Yes, whether you're using it consciously or unconsciously. So I invite you, as we go to our tables, to remember these rabbit ears. Remember what we used to do when we wanted a clear signal from the radio or from the television. It's always broadcasting. We just have to tune in and turn on to it. And so you have some questions, and I'll see you back. We'll go to our tables now. All right. Well, thank you everyone for participating. I just want to make clear, don't misunderstand me. As I was thinking about what I put out, when I talk about the divine and tapping in and tuning in, I don't mean something outside of us. I mean our own divine. We're part of the divine. We're one with the divine. So we're not talking about something outside of us, because so many times we're looking for solutions outside of ourselves. What I'm talking about is your higher self, tapping into that wisdom, that guidance, that universe is always transmitting to you. So we're tuning in to ourselves, to that higher place within us, our souls that has never been touched by whatever's going on out here. That's what we're tuning into. So, homework. Do I have some homework up on this? No, maybe it's not on the screen. So, the homework is listening in conversation now. We're going to move it to conversation, because I have a friend that when she and I talk, I don't think she hears what I say, and I definitely don't hear what she says, because we're like, But this week, we're going to pick one conversation per day, and intentionally tune into it. Tune into it and listen for divine guidance. But like Jabel was saying, we listen for divine guidance before we react. We want to be intentional. We want to tune in. We want to not say things that are going to be devastating to someone. So that's what it is. Tune into yourself this week, and tune into a conversation you might be having with someone, and pause before you reply. Reflect on the other person's words, and you can reflect it back to them. Oftentimes I do this when I'm in a conversation. What I hear you saying is, that way there's no misunderstanding. And ask one deepening question rather than offering advice. Because we talked about Maricel and all this advice that she's been listening to, but she hasn't been tuning into her own inner wisdom. And then if you like audiobooks, which I do, listen to them. And then, like, we're reading this fantastic book, The Untethered Soul. And some of the stuff that we actually talked about in our last time we met, I kind of heard pieces of that would apply from that book in today's conversation. So listen without analyzing. Write down any words or phrases that resonate with you. And then share insights in your journal, any breakthroughs that you're having in your journal. And just watch a shift take place within you. All right? All right, and so it is. So just taking a deep breath and joining me in consciousness, and how wonderful it is to know that there is a power within us. It's not separate from us, but it's within us. And we can tune in and tap into it any time that we want to. I recognize this one source as God. You can recognize it and call it whatever you want. There's only one power and one presence. Call it what you wish. There's only one. And that intelligence is within us. It is speaking through us. It is that higher self. That part of us that we know that when we listen to it, that nothing in our life, everything is open. The possibilities are endless. Things that we haven't even thought of. that we don't see the divine. What is God's highest idea of us? That's what we do in visioning. That's what we do in prayer when we tune into it. So I'm open now to hear this still small voice. I tune my rabbit ears or whatever it is, or my consciousness to the divine so I can clearly hear that still small voice. I affirm this lesson of truth today, knowing that it is inner wisdom. It is peace, it is joy, it is love, it is perfect health, it is wholeness, and we are the individualized expressions of it. And so I give thanks for this knowing. I give thanks for this Sunday, Palm Sunday. And I receive all my good, and I invite you to receive all your good by tuning into your divine, your higher self. And so it is. Now we're going to say our something wonderful that's happening. Oh, but first we have to say our affirmation. I am fully tuned into the frequency of divine wisdom. Let's say that together like we mean it. I am fully tuned into the frequency of divine wisdom. Okay. Something wonderful is happening to me right now, through me right now. Let's stand. Let's stand. Let's stand. Everybody. Let's say this thing like we mean it. Something wonderful is happening through me right now. It is this thing called love. Love is in my mind. Love is in my body. Love is in everything I do. I am it. I share it. I receive it. And I move forward because love lives here. All right.